Sanford is ABC24's political analyst. Sam Hardiman is a reporter with the Daily Memphian. And we've got Mark Billingsley, drew a blank there, the former Shelby County Commissioner, a longtime Republican. So anxious to hear from all of you about this MATA situation. I call it the mess at MATA because I think that's something we can say on TV.
Right.
Before the show, we were coming up with different things, and I think cluster blank and blank show came up, but we decided not to go with that.
No, it's a family show.
It's a family show.
Right.
Otis, really, what are we going to do with this situation? They announced hundreds of cuts this week. They're eliminating a third of their routes, and I understand this group that has come forward asking for a tax increase, $20 million to help, alleviate some of the suffering here. Mm-hmm. But why would we throw good money after bad?
Well, and we won't. Sam can probably speak to this better than I can, but I don't think that this city council, even as liberal as it is, they're not going to go for any kind of major tax increase to support MATA. Maybe they will. I doubt that they will. We are at a crisis point here with this agency, and nobody really knows how to fix it. I mean, the mayor, Paul Young, ordered the forensic audit of what's going on over there. But now that they're getting rid of half the staff in every area of the agency, cutting back on routes. The only way this can be fixed is if some kind of infusion of money comes from somewhere. But I just don't see the taxpayers going for any kind of major tax increase. Well, what about some more federal money from somewhere? I don't know if that's even possible.
I think that would even come under scrutiny. Why would they spend federal money on a system that's struggling as much as it is?
Right.
Sam, I know that public transportation is not having the best of times around the country. We're not unique in that regard. But in terms of the percentage and the amount of the strife that we're dealing with, it really is unprecedented.
Yeah, first to answer Otis's question, I would say never, but odds of a tax increase bailing out MATA right now are like lower than me playing for the Grizzlies, I would guess, which is pretty low. And so also what we have to realize is that what we're dealing with right now was in the tea leaves for a while. And just like the Memphis city budget was bailed out by federal funds during COVID, MATA was bailed out by federal funds during COVID, right? And that federal money is now expired. And so these cuts were likely inevitable because you have a system that really has about $3.5–4 million in annual revenue that was running about $85 million in expenses. It has been essentially, and I don't want to say charity case in like a pejorative way, but it has been a government charity case. The city of Memphis pours in about $30 million a year. Shelby County pours in a small amount of money. Federal government, state government subsidize the rest, essentially. And so that's what you're dealing with. So really, I think the question going forward is how does this service provide something for something that these are the people with the least, right, that are relying on MATA, right? How is that provided, and how can it be provided at a cheaper price than $64 million, which is the current budget roughly, or $85 million? Because that's clearly not working.
What is your reporting on the forensic audit? How long will that take? When will we get something into it?
It's going to take, weeks to months. Forensic audits, PricewaterhouseCoopers, they're not going to turn this out immediately. I mean, when we asked the mayor about it, after he presented it to the city council, my colleague Kim Gemison and I said, we're not looking for wrongdoing here. Like, that's what he said. He's very clear about that. Last week, forensic audit people are like, oh, well, no, the fibbies are coming. That's not what we're maybe talking about here. We're probably talking about just an understanding of how the cash flows of what is a complex agency have worked. And right now, let's point out, the MATA itself has an outside CFO. It does not have an inside CFO. And that outside CFO is the one who has proposed largely these cuts.
Right. Mm-hmm. What do you make of the situation, Mark?
Well, I think the whole thing's despicable. For decades now, we have waited and waited and waited for MATA to improve. For decades, I've waited for MATA just to improve for the service of senior citizens and those people with disabilities that rely on MATA services. I've seen people waiting outside doctors' offices for hours, waiting to be picked up by MATA Plus. I think there's just a void of accountability. And to Otis's point, to infuse money without the accountability piece, it would give me a great pause if I was a congressman, city council member, or county commissioner. Where's the accountability? Who's on the board, respectfully, who's on the board, and what are they saying? I think you need to have the board members of MATA on this program or interviewed, because ideally they're the ones who are in charge of MATA. Mm-hmm. We have figurehead staff members there who are making some pretty tough decisions that are not appropriate decisions, in my opinion. When you're buying expensive furniture, you've got to get poor people from point A to point B within a specific amount of time so they keep their jobs. And I'm just really disappointed, but it's the same story over and over and over. And when are we going to say enough?
Right. And to that point, that you're talking about waiting. It's one thing for the customers, the riders, to be waiting, whether they're
Right.
waiting at a doctor's office or whether they're waiting at a bus stop. But it's another thing for the policymakers. They've been waiting to.
Right.
And they have not been proactive enough. This didn't just start last year or last
No.
week, to your point. This has been going on. I remember a story, and our older viewers will probably understand this. There was a newspaper reporter named Terry Keeter back in the 1970s, wrote an extensive story about MATA being in the red and all the problems. That was 1970s. And we haven't done much of anything over those decades to make sure that we shore up this vital transportation apparatus for some people in this community. We just haven't done it. We've all been waiting, and I'm talking about the policymakers as well.
Well, you know, obviously, we don't. The people inside MATA don't know how to fix it. We've been waiting decades for them to fix it. So maybe it's time to reach out to the FedExes and logistic experts and people outside the Mid-South to look at us and come to us. I guess we'll ask them today. Come to us and give us some solutions that might work, because obviously MATA doesn't have the answers.
I mean, to the point Mr. Billingsley about
Yeah.
accountability, right? MATA's not a division of the city of Memphis. Its board members are
Right.
appointed by the mayor of the city of Memphis. They pick the CEO. There's no one really, to look in on them, right? Like right now, the city is saying we want a forensic audit. That's sort of kind of functioning like accounts payable, essentially. Like before we give you money, we want to see where it's going. It's not a division of the city of Memphis. There's that lack of, like the MLGW board, they still have to go to the Memphis City Council. Like
Right.
MATA still has to come for appropriating things.
So it's like MLGW.
It's like MLGW, but MLGW still has, the city council can vote something the MLG
Right.
board won't vote it
Okay.
down. Beyond the budget, beyond allocating money, the city council isn't doing that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the unfortunate thing as well is they've also, one of the first cuts they made was eliminating the trolley line.
Yeah.
And that was the one example of public transportation that everybody could enjoy and see the benefits of, and now that's gone too. There's a lot more to be said about this for sure. All right, we're going to take
none of it is good.
And none of it's good, I'm afraid. We're going to. I do want to hear this quick piece of sound we have from the MATA Bus Coalition, the spokesman there trying to make a case for the tax increase, and we can talk about that real quick before we go to a break. Go ahead.
If you care about education, if you care about workforce development, if you care about economic development, if you care about health care, if you care about anything, you have to care about our public transit system, because that is the way that we actually build equity and justice in our community.
Everything he said is true, but they're advocating for a 14-cent property tax increase, which is just never going to happen, as we talked about. And I don't know how the city's going to find the money from the rainy day fund. They said, well, there's $114 million there. There is no way the city council is going to dip into that. Everybody agree with that?
I do.
I don't think it's likely. I mean, to that point, though, this is like sort of a tragedy at the same time. These are the people with the least. These are the people, to Mr. Billingsley's point, that are looking to keep their jobs, right? Like, this could exacerbate poverty in this community, right? And so what does that do? Probably exacerbates crime. That's not good. That's not what the city in Memphis needs.
Okay, we'll leave it there for now, but when we